Welcome, everyone. You're listening to Nephology, the podcast dedicated to crypto, accounting, business, finance, and much, much more. I'm Joe David, the founder of Nephos Group in Minor. Please note that all conversations recorded are professional opinions, and if you'd like to know more or gain support, please reach out to the team directly. Now on to the next episode.
So hi, my name is Angela de Souza and I'm the founder and CEO of Women's Business Club. We're a global platform that empowers women in their business or their career, and just seeing remarkable things happening at the moment, worldwide, with women really wanting to rise up and really wanting to be all they can be in their professional journey. And so that's us.
Hello, I am Julie and I am Head of People and Operations. Started with Nephos Group around 4.5 years ago. My initial role was actually straight after maternity leave. Wanted to get into a role which was something that fit around the kids. So I started originally as Joe, the founder, his PA and a business administrator. There was probably around 4 people in the company at the time. And yeah, it did really work. But me being determined and ambitious, it just wasn't enough and I wanted to do more. So I started to get more involved in the people management side of it, something that I think Joe was very happy for me to kind of take on.
Yeah.
So I started doing more of that, and I said, I think it's really important that we have one-to-ones with people, that we have performance reviews, that we start developing our team. And Joe was more than happy for me to kind of take the lead with that, and that's where my role kind of developed into more of a office manager. And then it kind of progressed into the role that I'm doing today, which is Head of People and Operations. I love working with people. I love being able to watch people grow and develop. And I think that the HR side of it was something that I was really, really passionate about, and that I've kind of expressed that since I started with the business 4.5 years ago. And I recently did my CIPD level 5, and that has really, really helped me in terms of working on strategies in the business to develop and grow our people, and also understand what it takes to make people happy in their roles and all of that sort of stuff. But then there's also the operation side of it, and strategically having a plan to grow the business. So not only, the people, but also the business and how we do that. So I think that, Holly, you said earlier, I'm Joe's right-hand woman. But I guess that is kind of who I am. I help him in growing and developing the business and trying to, make the rest of the team realise what his vision is and help him kind of grow and develop that. So I guess in a nutshell, that's kind of...
In a nutshell, you are the glue that holds the
co-pilot.
together.
Yeah, the co-pilot.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
We should get you a little
exactly. So we're talking about sort of like the strategies of like the company. I'm wondering if we can elaborate a bit more on that and how like strategies look for you in your business.
Well, I'm having envy of Joe because what you do is amazing. I wish I had somebody like you to do my people and operations. I think it's wonderful when you get to that point as a business owner where you can start handing over, entire functions to someone else. One of the things that we find challenging is that we don't have a head office because we're global. We spread out across the world. Our team is in all sorts of places and different time zones. And so there's never been a reason to have an office as such. So I think a big challenge, first and foremost, is to keep people happy working remotely. That's very challenging. You can't do things like team days. You can't do things, like let's have a half day and go to the beach sort of thing. Which those are the wonderful things that are bonding for teams, and we can't have that. So it's extra challenging, first and foremost, to keep people motivated and inspired. But also I find I have to be intentional about encouraging them. I have to send a note every now and then and remember to highlight something that they've done well, because they don't get that. I think in an office situation, you would naturally have that little bit of encouragement. I think so. The people strategy, and of course, we're a people business. So we're Women's Business Club. We are all about people. And so I've really had to enhance and develop my people skills. And one of the ways that I found in terms of strategy works best for us and for me is to always keep things small. The bigger we get, the smaller we need to get. And what I mean by that is I keep a small team that I personally take responsibility for, and I make sure that I take very good care of that very small team, and then teach them or encourage them to do the same, have their small team. And that way we have everybody really looked after, rather than me being responsible for all staff and all franchisees and all directors and everybody. I'd never do a good job.
Not realistic,
no.
is it? Yeah.
And also because I really want to have that personal touch. So I would never have a team bigger than 10 personally, 5 or 6 at the moment. And those are the people that I will really invest in and take care of. So that's the people side of the strategy. I mean, the other stuff we could talk forever on.
I think when I first started at Nephos, it was a team full of women. It was me, I think 3 other women and Joe. Which, yeah, great. But I think that it's important to note that whilst we are here talking about women and we want to celebrate women, absolutely, but it's also important to note that, we're not disregarding like the challenges or the contributions that men make. It's all about creating a diverse leadership. And I think that historically, I think women have been underrepresented, and that's where these discussions are so important to have, in that actually men are great but women are great as well, and there's still that inequality. I think we still face that today. So at Nephos we have really worked on creating that diversity and making sure that we have a diverse team, because women have certain skills, men have certain skills. And it's the same with our clients as well. We have, male clients and we have female clients, and actually having a diverse leadership, it enables us to be able to manage those clients in the best way, in the absolute best possible way. So the leadership team that we have at the moment is very mixed. We have some amazing leaders in our business that are women. We have Daniela, who runs our minor limited company team, who is
a crypto genius.
And I think that industry is very kind of male dominated.
It is,
So it's amazing to have a woman in that role who is absolutely smashing it. And I think that is really important to note. And as soon as you have those women in those higher roles, it just inspires other women. And that's where I think that it's really, really important for us to be able to show other women that actually, women can be, senior leaders, women can be business owners, women can do all of these things. And it's something that I'm really passionate about, making sure that women are inspired to do that, and they see other women doing that, and they believe that it's something that they can get into as well.
I think for us at Women's Business Club, one of the things, or one of the common misconceptions, is that we're trying to separate women and we're trying to, make women better than men.
Agree.
And that's not at all what we're about. What we're actually about is, yes, for a short time, bringing the women apart to have their own space so that they can go back into the business world confident in what they've got to bring to the business world, not feeling like they have to be like a man to be successful, not feeling like they're not good enough, but actually owning what makes them unique. And that's not only gender, that's also personality, that's skills.
Exactly,
we are all so different. And so the biggest challenge I have, first and foremost, is stopping the angry people. We are not doing anything to separate men and women. We're actually just trying to build a healthier, more balanced workforce, a business world. And so one of the biggest challenges I actually face is confidence. Confidence, number one, flat out, but also confidence to show up as a woman with what you bring to the marketplace and not be ashamed of it, not think, oh, I have to be more like a man, or I have to be more assertive, or I have to. No, this is who I am. This is how I dress. This is what I have to bring. These are my skills.
Yeah.
And if I don't know something, I'll just say, sorry, what does that mean? Whereas before I would be so embarrassed if I didn't understand something.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm like, well, I don't know everything, you know.
No.
And so just to be confident to show up with who I am and what I know, and to encourage other women to do the same, you know, just go for it. Equally, there's a massive CEO exodus at the moment. You may have heard top leaders are exiting because they want to have a better work-life balance. And my challenge again is, can't we have it all? Can't we have both? Why can't we work a little less, have a bit more family time, but not have to give up everything, not have to give up one to have the other? And so that's another challenge I'm trying to tackle with this whole balance. Is I haven't heard of men leaving for that reason. I'm not saying they don't, I'm sure they do, but it's a big thing at the moment that women are having to give up careers so that they can have families.
It's that social expectation, isn't it, that women are the ones that are expected to look after the children, to cook dinner, to clean the house and all of that sort of stuff. As women, you always do. Like my mom was that person that, you know, looked after the children, that did the dinner, but she still works full time as well.
Yeah.
My
I
mum
also
too,
do that, but I think as women we put that expectation on ourselves because in society that is what, you know, I think it's got a million times better than what it was,
Yes,
but it's
definitely.
still there that women are expected to look after the children, to go home, to look after the house. I think as in my personal opinion, like I do all of those things, I work full time. As a woman, I think it makes me stronger for doing that as well, because, you know, I've got so, like, having children, I think that develops you as a person,
as a
anyway.
manager.
Yeah, like, you know, the stress levels, you can manage them a lot better because you know, it's not nowhere near as stressful as having to deal with children and doing all of that at home.
Work
So-
can be a break from the stress of home sometimes.
yeah. So I think that, you know, there is that social expectation, and I think it's actually really interesting when you were saying about, you know, we're not hating on men or
not at
anything.
all.
So I think I was saying to someone about like the conversations that I was going to have today, and it was like, oh, it's just going to be a men hating conversation, and I was like, it's absolutely not that, and I get why. You know, men would think that. And that's why it was really important for me to say that it's not disregarding the challenges that men face, because I'm sure that they face, you know, challenges in their own right. But, you know, as a woman, I have experienced it before where I've had a meeting and I've walked into a room full of men and they have just disregarded me. And and, you know, I've been the leader in that meeting. I've been, you know, I've gone into that meeting, as the leader of Nephos, and they've directed all of their questions to my, you know, male counterpart or someone that was, you know, a lower level than me, because they were a man. And you know, and I think that I raised it afterwards because actually it made me feel really uncomfortable. And afterwards I raised that, and they were like, well, I raised the financial questions with the man in the room because I thought that they would be better suited to answer those questions. But why? Because I'm a female. Like, there's no reason as to why I couldn't have answered those questions, and I could have. I'm privy to that information. You know, I'm the person that is, you know, running the strategy for Nephos, that I'm the person that has those discussions, that are making those plans. I'm more than capable of having those discussions. Just because I'm a woman, I shouldn't be overlooked. And that's what I find really frustrating about what goes on in society, and the I think that the bias of and the stereotypes of women, that they don't know the financial stuff, they don't know the numbers, because they're a woman or whatever else. It does really, really frustrate me.
I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to tell you a little story which I loved, which is how I would like the world to be. I once had a meeting, and I think I was the only woman in the room. There was about maybe 6 men in the room, and usually the assumption is the woman in the room will take the minutes, right?
Yeah.
And I never volunteer. Like, if we're in the room, who's to take the minutes? I keep quiet and I wait and see. I'm happy to do it. I'm not too good to take minutes, but also I just want to see. Anyway, in this particular meeting, Alex Chalk was in the room. And Alex Chalk said, shall I do the minutes? No, he wasn't even asked. We sat down to meet and he said, shall I do the minutes? I said, that'd be great, thank you. And I was just like, wow, this is how it should be. You know, it's not assumed that there's one woman in the room, she's the minute taker. And so I think that's kind of what we'd like to build up, is this world where actually I was leading the meeting, I couldn't take the minutes. So whoever else is in the room who can take the meeting will, you know what I mean? It's not because you're a man or a woman, but it's because you have less responsibility in this particular meeting. You have the capacity to take the minutes. And that was amazing. I had another business and I used to do a lot of mixed networking, and I always felt like the smallest person in the room, like I didn't fit in, like I wasn't clever enough, like I didn't dress as well as the men, and etc. And that was part of the motivation for starting Women's Business Club, is because I wanted to provide a space where I could go and network and do business unashamedly as myself, and just get down to business and not worry about all these other things. But looking back, I mean, this is now over 11 years ago, looking back to then, and my journey since, in various meetings in women-only and mixed settings, I have to wonder if much of it was my own insecurity rather than the men in the room making me feel that way. And so a lot of my journey has been finding myself in the business world, finding myself and showing up unashamedly, authentically me, whatever that means, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And being confident in that, and not trying to be like the men in the room. There is also now, going through later stage in life, you've got the whole menopause thing that you throw into the workplace, trying to navigate that amongst men who probably aren't, I mean, it's getting better, but I think men don't know how to deal with what menopausal women go through in the workplace. Just like, what happened to this woman? Like, what's going on here? And, and so there's that. So there's the age thing. There's the female hormone thing. There's the woman bringing their own baggage into the setting. Like, what baggage is the woman bringing that they're projecting onto the men, assuming the men think X, Y, Z? And so Julie's experience is very real. And that does happen to women, but it's so much more than that as well. It could be that, but it could be all these other things. And so I can't necessarily give tips for how, like what Julie did was spot on. I can't improve on that, but what I can say to women is really check yourself and be the best version of yourself. And when you show up in those meetings, just be authentic, just be you, even if you know that you've got flaws, because who doesn't? And I think that's much more appealing, and it's much more easy for men and women to network with each other when the person is just being real
and just being confident in who they are.
Exactly.
You said about like your own insecurities, because you go into a room, there's men there, you instantly make the assumption that they're going to think, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to talk to her, she's a woman. And it's frustrating. And I think that as a woman, you should have that confidence, and actually you're there for a reason. You might have a different skill set to certain men in the room, and that's okay, because that's the whole point, isn't it? That's the whole point of it. And there are great men. There are great, absolutely. I think, Joe, the leader of Nephos, he is completely all for making sure that we have a diverse workforce. And, the end of the day, he's entrusted a woman to lead his business. He's, in Dubai. He's based in Dubai. He's not here in the country in the office running and overseeing the day-to-day of the business. He's entrusted me to do that. So, I think that it's about men also encouraging and seeing the potential in women, and encouraging that. So I think that there are great men, and it's important, as you said, to celebrate those men as well. But absolutely, we need to check ourselves. And
there
are
some awful men as well.
No,
and we can't change
but there's
them.
awful women.
Exactly.
And that's the thing.
But
That's
the point is,
whole
we can't change anyone except ourselves. So, there was this one man in this one regular networking event I went to. He was always hitting on me. It was a really much older man. He was just, and I was just like, you know what? I can't change him. I can't change the circumstances, but I can make sure I'm having the best response in those circumstances, in that situation, and it's just, and I think the world will always be like that. As the years go by, it will get better, as the older, more traditional men who perhaps are used to things being a certain way will phase out of the business world. And younger men who seem to be just so much more enlightened, if you want to,
Yeah.
for lack of
Yeah.
a better word. I think the world will slowly get better.
Yeah.
But I will always come back to, even if you are the person in the room to take the minutes, that's your job. Be the best minute taker ever. Be the best you can be.
Yeah.
You will stand out, and then you progress through the ranks.
Yeah.
Because we need to take responsibility for ourselves.
Of course.
That's the only thing we can control and change.
Yeah.
Everybody else, I think the only caveat I would say is you don't have to tolerate abuse under any circumstances. We can just to add to the standing up for yourself is really important.
Yes. Yeah.
I was I had a job in London. It was in construction industry, so very male-dominated environment. And I knew I was good at my job, and I wanted more. And I was given more work. I was taken, as a staff member left the company, I took on their role. So I was absorbing roles. I was never given a promotion. I was never given a pay rise, to the point that I was eventually traveling the country, training directors on a new system that we built. Anyway. But they would not give me a pay rise. They would not give me a promotion, even though I was probably getting close to, mid to senior level management in this. This was a global construction company. Anyway, but the point is, the way I stood up for myself was I left.
Yeah.
I first educated myself. Yeah. First of all, they said to me, I asked if I could do this training course that I needed to do my job. And they said, no, there's no funds for that. I went out and did the course anyway. Then I got qualified. I came back to my director when I left, and I said, okay, I can deliver the training to the team because they cannot do this job now that I've left without this training that you wouldn't give me. And he said, oh, but I thought you couldn't do it. I said, I went out and got trained. And so that company that I left became my first client of my new business.
That's amazing.
That's how I stood up for myself. They
Yeah.
would not promote. They lost.
It's important as women that we do that, because if we don't do that, then we won't get anywhere, and we won't keep moving, and then
we're
other
setting
women
example for others.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that's it. And if we don't set that example, then other women aren't going to take that step or make that move to be like, actually, this isn't acceptable. I know my value and I know my worth, and I'm not accepting that. I'm going to either raise it and get that progression, or I'm going to leave and I'm going to have that with another business or another company.
Yeah.
But just to add as well, to come from the other angle, there are women who hold other women back.
Oh, yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time, I would say, it's just their own insecurities.
Yeah.
It is.
And so they have to keep women down so that they can be the most senior women in the room and feel good about themselves. And that's equally a problem. There's
It
men
is.
holding women back. Women operate a lot from insecurity. And so they build their own platform by suppressing other women, which is really sad. But it's another problem we have to take.
So thank you so much, Julie and Angela. It's really useful, and it's really interesting to obviously hear both of your perspectives as two women in business. So yeah, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having us.
you.
Yeah.